This is Qtv News. I am Mariatu Sidibe and thanks for joining us. First, the main local and international news headlines. President Barrow on Wednesday embarked on a tour of Banjul City to assess the rehabilitation projects. The National Environment Management Council held its maiden stakeholders dialogue since its establishment in 1994. The Managing Director of the Gambia Ports Authority has said that the GPA is growing despite the numerous challenges it faces. Former Army Lieutenant Omar Dabo told the TRRC that a former NIA officer, Fode Barry, was responsible for his torture when he was arrested and accused of being involved in a coup plot in 2000. In international news, in the dying days of his presidency, outgoing U.S. President Trump has issued an order targeting citizens of several African countries who may wish to visit America. In sports news, the Gambia Young Scorpions beat Sierra Leone 2-1 on Tuesday in the ongoing Waffle Zone A Under-20 tournament in Senegal. Argentine football legend and World Cup winner Diego Maradona, regarded by many as the greatest player of all time, has died aged 60. Now, the local news in detail. President Barrow said the Banjul rehabilitation project is quite important to his government and Banjulians as it is the capital city. The Gambian leader on Wednesday embarked on a tour of the city to assess the progress of the project. As Alusise reports, Banjulians have expressed delight with the project.
It is the second inspection tour by the President since the laying of the foundation stone for the Banjul Sewage, Drainage and Road Rehabilitation Project in February 2019. The President was received at the start of the inspection visit by the mayors of Banjul, Rohey Malik Low, who was joined by many residents of Banjul who accompanied the President throughout. President Barrow said the $35.6 million Banjul project, pre-financed by the contractor, Gay Construction, is another milestone towards the realization of government's development agenda as set out in the National Development Plan and the Sustainable Development Goals.
Everybody is seeing the project now. I think the project speaks for itself. This is a project that is important, not for Banjul alone, but for the Gambia. Banjul is our capital city. We cannot afford to ignore Banjul. That's why it's a very expensive project. I need the support of everybody, especially Banjulians. But Banjulians coming out in their numbers is because of the impact of the project on their lives.
President Barrow, a former resident of Banjul before ascending to the presidency, expresses his government intention to replicate similar projects in other places like Serekunda and other major towns.
We have already assessed Serekunda. Serekunda and its catchment areas is about 500 kilometers. If you want to do that, you have to do the roads, you have to do the drainage and sewage together. And we are studying it, and really we think we will contact our partners so that we will work together and do Serekunda and do other places also.
Over the years, visitors and residents of Banjul, the country's capital, have faced challenges related to flooding and leakage of sanitary waste, coupled with the loss of the structural integrity of its road due to the high underground water table. Elected Banjulians, including Sheikh Omar Faye, who doubles as Minister of Defense, and Aji Awasilanjai, a former Deputy Mayor of Banjul City Council, said the implementation of the project, therefore, cannot have come at a better time than now to address all the roads and drainage challenges confronting the residents of Banjul.
This president has made history. Look at Banjul now. We're all proud of Banjul. And we hope that this is just 60% of the project. We were told that a lot is yet to come, not only for Banjul, but for the whole country. It's a government of development, a government of dialogue, a government of reconciliation. So let us come together and let's get Banjul to be everywhere in the Gambia. We want everywhere to be like Banjul or even better. So we are very pleased and we are very gratified as Banjulians and as Gambians.
I am happy, I am proud, I am very thankful to President Barrow for the development he has brought to our doorstep. The project has developed the city. It has raised the standard of Banjul to be comparative to other cities within the sub-region.
With the government spearheading this 5-year project, over public and private institutions and businesses operating in the city are expected to contribute their quota by working with the Banjul City Council to fulfill their social corporate responsibilities. Economically, the project is expected to encourage more investment in infrastructure development, thereby creating more employment for Gambians and improving their incomes. The president also visited St. Joseph's Senior Secondary School for girls, where he interacted with the school administration and students. The tour wrapped up at the King Fahad Mosque, where the elders of Banjul, led by Imam Ratib Aliu Maska, had gathered to recite the Holy Quran to pray for the president, his government, and the continuous peace, progress, and development of the country. They expressed satisfaction with the project while giving assurances of their support to the president.
The National Environment Management Council held its maiden stakeholders dialogue since its establishment in 1994. As Yenaba Sonko reports, the Vice President Dr. Aissatou Toure called for more environmental activists in the Gambia.
The National Environment Management Council came into existence after the 1972 United Nations Conference on the Environment in Stockholm, which was the first global conference to make the environment a major issue. The participants adopted a series of principles for sound management of the environment, including the Stockholm Declaration and Action Plan for the Human Environment, and ordered several resolutions. Generally, national environment councils are established to advise governments and the international community on environmental issues. Also, national environment management councils can undertake enforcement, compliance review, and monitoring of environmental impacts assessments, research, facilitate public participation in environmental decision-making, raise environmental awareness, and collect and disseminate environmental information. The Gambia National Environment Management Council consists of 8 members: the Vice President, the Minister of Environment, Agriculture, Health, Lands, Finance, Trade, and a co-opted member.
The council, as you will see in some of the presentations, this is the highest decision-making body on environmental matters. So when you say environmental matters, if you look at the composition of the council, so many ministries are involved, because ministries are the ones that are formulating and implementing policies. Yeah.
Lamin B. Dibe, the Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Water Resources, says economic development should go hand in hand with environmental preservation. He warned that if the two are not moving side by side, the future consequences will be huge.
And how do we put in environment into our national development issues to ensure that we reduce the ecological footprint of high-consuming societies, and also we also make a sustainable pathway in our development agenda. This is why this Art Summit that first took place in 1972 in Stockholm clearly defined the roles and responsibilities of national governments, but as well as global efforts to ensure that how do we curb the rate of resource exploitation.
The Vice President says due to the bad governance in the previous regime, the National Environment Council has not been functional since its establishment in 1994. She calls for stronger activism in environmental matters.
And we need environmental activists. Change can only come when you take on an activist stand in certain matters. We've been hearing a lot of institutions dealing with the environment, but I've not seen anything that is being done per se to move the environment. There are different environmental issues, and there is a lot to be done. So I invite civil society, the polity, to look at their environment, to look at the country and see how can you make sure that we get to do things that will help us improve the environment.
Climate change hazards in the Gambia include flooding, drought, cold spells, intra-seasonal drought, heat waves, sea level rise, and unseasonal rains. Related hazards include limited ability to predict the incidence of hazards and connectivity of multiple and mutually reinforcing hazards. Now that the Council has had its maiden stakeholders meeting since its establishment in 1994, we hope they will serve as an effective environmental think tank to lessen the impact of environmental problems. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jenna Masongo.
The managing director of the Gambia Ports Authority has said that the GPA is growing despite the numerous challenges it faces. Usman Jobate made this revelation while announcing that the authority has procured 2 containers of loading equipment. Omar P. Jallo reports.
According to MD Jobate, the challenges facing his institution includes the growing number of ships coming into the port and the resulting number of containers to handle in terms of loading and offloading. On the expansion of the jetty at the port, Jobate said it will provide more berthing space for ships. He adds that the total targeted area for the port expansion project is about 58,000 square meters, out of which 26,000 square meters have already been acquired at Half-Dry in Banjul. Over 60% of goods traded or transacted in the country originally passed through the port in transit, including the cross-border and re-export trade. However, many customers are complaining that there are usually long delays in offloading the containers. On why customers need middlemen, commonly known as clearing agents, to handle transactions. This is what he has to say. The MD also explained the increment of tariff following the installation of new landers at the ferry terminals. According to Mr. Jobate, the GPA plans to digitalize the port's operations to improve its effectiveness and efficiency. The Banjul port is one of the biggest contributors to the country's GDP, with an annual estimate of over $1.5 billion. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
Former Army Lieutenant Omar Dabo told the TRRC that a former NIA officer, Fode Barry, was responsible for his torture when he was arrested and accused of being involved in a coup plot against then-President Jammeh in 2000. Babukar C has the rest of that story.
Former Lieutenant Omar Dabo said he was arrested and taken to the NIA headquarters while serving as the head of the security unit at State House. After a week in detention, the witness said he was brought before a panel of senior NIA officers.
As the investigation was progressing, that's when Sukuta told me that we are investigating because of you, me, Lieutenant O.M. Dabo, being part of an alleged plot to overthrow the government of Yahya Jammeh.
The witness went on to say that the panelists were trying to find out his relationship with political figures like Bibi Dabo and Ousainou Dabo. Omar Dabo added that he was later asked to explain his relationship with Lalo Jaite, a friend with whom he trained with in the army. Mr. Dabo stated that the NIA were not happy with his written statement claiming he had no knowledge of a coup plot. After denying all allegations against him, the witness said Fodoy Barry ordered security officers to torture him.
I think they flipped a chair under me, and then I fell on the ground, and then they started beating me.
His refusal to implicate his innocent friend as wanted by the NIA landed him in more trouble.
Fodoy led a torture session on me to elicit a false confession that I was part of a group of people wanting to overthrow the government of Yahya Jammeh.
Omar Dabo said he was later arraigned before the magistrate court and later taken to Mile 2 prison, where he was kept for 5 months in Communicado. After 2 years in prison, the first person who was allowed to visit him was his aunt.
She was crossing the road, not aware of her environment, and then the speeding vehicle just hit her. She died on the spot. That blood stain remained on that road till it faded with time. So every day I was leaving that prison to go to court. I was greeted by that memory.
After 3 years in jail, the witness said he and others were acquitted and discharged after it was found there was no evidence against them. After his release, the army issued him a dismissal letter with immediate effect, citing security reasons. After a tip-off that his life may be in danger again, the witness said he finally left the country with his daughter to the US, where he stayed until Jammeh was defeated in 2016. Babukar C, QTV News.
We will go for a short commercial break, and when we come back, the news continues with some more local news. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. A former prison warden, Bakari Tamba, on Wednesday told the Truth Commission that he was dismissed from the prison service after being accused and implicated for giving a mobile phone to a prisoner at Mile 2. Babukar C tells us more.
Bakari Tamba said he joined the prison service in 2008 and was later posted at Mile 7. He recalled an incident in March of 2013 when 2 NIA officers arrested him while he was on duty, accusing him of giving a mobile phone to a prisoner. At the NIA headquarters, Tamba said he denied the allegation, telling them he is posted at Mile 7 and not Mile 2. He was then locked up in a cell where he met Lantombon Tamba and other detainees. The following night, the witness said he was picked up at night and tortured.
They were beating me very seriously, and I was shouting, saying some things, incomprehensive things. They beat me up to the point that the neem tree branches that they brought in were all finished.
Tamba told the commission that he was also tortured by the jugglers after refusing to falsely confess that the alleged phone was given to him by a white man who was also detained at the NIA to give it to the prisoner. Finally, he says he agreed to falsely confess when he couldn't bear the torture anymore. The witness said he was later dismissed from the prison service.
In this regard, you are hereby informed that you are dismissed from active service with effect from 3rd April 2013, signed by David Colley.
Tamba says he was later taken to court and after some months was acquitted, in spite of which he was dismissed from the service. He urges the commission to help him get back to his work as he has been out of work for a long time. Babu Karsi, Qtv News.
Omar Jatta, another victim of the NIA, on Wednesday told the Truth Commission that he was arrested in 1995, taken to the NIA, undressed and electrocuted before being asked what he was doing in a naming ceremony. Babu Karsi has the rest of that story.
Omar Jatta said he was arrested in 1995 by plainclothes officers and taken to the NIA office and asked to undress. He said they brought cable wires and electrocuted him without telling him anything or the reason for his arrest.
You on machine. And they put the machine on. What I felt at that moment is something that I never felt in my body again. But by that time, one of them was sitting on top of the chair which they placed on me. And in fact, there were two. One sat on the other arm of the chair, and there was another person sitting on the other arm of the chair.
Jatta said after more than 15 minutes of torture, he was finally asked what type of meeting was going on at the naming ceremony and who were the people planning to demonstrate at the American embassy. The witness said he told the NIA that he was at the ceremony because of a relationship he had with the person and his closeness to veteran politician Omar Amadou Jallow alias OJ. He said the NIA asked him to explain to them what they were discussing at the ceremony, to which he replied it was a normal chat and nothing more. Nevertheless, he was electrocuted again. Later on, the witness said his legs became swollen and could barely walk. Because of his conditions after the serious torture, the witness said the NIA were scared that he might die in their custody and quickly asked him to leave their premises. Omar Jatta said he struggled to reach the main road and got a lift home. He said he still remembers those NIA officers who tortured him or ordered for his torture.
I know Salmina Drame.
Usman Sidibe.
Usman Sidibe.
That's how they call it. I forget it now. But for the body?
For the body.
The one it's very tough because but I recognize people they are beating me.
Yes, there was another tough guy, but I could recognize that these are the people who are beating me.
Omar Jatta ended his testimony by stressing that the Truth-Seeking Commission should be taken seriously, unlike the other commission that ended their work with nothing coming out from them. He said it's disheartening walking in the streets meeting up with perpetrators, some of whom are still holding high positions in the government. Babu Karsi, Qtv News.
We will take another short break and we continue with international news when we return. In the dying days of his presidency, outgoing U.S. President Trump has issued an order targeting citizens of several African countries who may wish to visit America. More in this report.
The outgoing president had infamously made derogatory remarks about African countries. Now, American authorities have outlined heavy financial rules, supposedly targeting countries whose nationals had an overstay rate of 10% or higher in 2019. Gambians are among the citizens of 15 African countries who will have to post bonds of up to $15,000 if they wish to visit the USA. The new temporary travel rule takes effect from 24th December. At the moment, it is a 6-month pilot program which targets those on both visitor and business visas. According to the United States State Department, it is intended to act as a deterrent to those who overstay their visas. The visa bond rule will now require potential visitors to pay a refundable bond of $5,000, $10,000 or $15,000. The African countries targeted are Angola, Burkina Faso, Chad, Democratic Republic of Congo, Djibouti, Eritrea, the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Libya, Mauritania, Sudan, Sao Tome and Principe, Cabo Verde, Burundi. Many will feel right to consider this an unfair targeting of these African countries. While the targeted nations had higher rates of overstays, the numbers are relatively low. As an example, Burkina Faso had 438 overstayers in 2019. In the same year, the UK had 16,000, Spain 14,000, and France 10,000. The only one of Gambia's very near neighbours not on the list is Senegal. Although President-elect Joe Biden, who defeated Donald Trump, has pledged to reverse many of the Republican president's immigration policies, it is unlikely that this one will be at the top of his agenda. And undoing all the policies of Donald Trump could take years to achieve. After all, it is not unusual for politicians to make bold statements and fail to keep them. During the campaign, for what now looks like his only term in office, Donald Trump had pledged he would repeal the Affordable Health Care Act, commonly referred to as Obamacare, on his first day in office. A few thousand days later, he leaves office without having done so. Reporting for QTV News, this is Ade Darami.
In sports news, Argentine football legend and World Cup winner Diego Maradona, regarded by many as the greatest player of all time, has died a month after leaving hospital in his native Argentina following surgery to remove a blood clot from his brain. Here is this report.
But we haven't been able to control the play in midfield the way that Maradona has been able to do. He's hurting England again here. It's a brilliant run. It's one of the World Cup great goals. And there's no doubt about that one.
The brain surgery was conducted in a private clinic in Buenos Aires a day after he was admitted to a hospital suffering from anemia and dehydration. Following the successful surgery, it was then announced he was to be treated for alcohol dependency. The football legend has had a troubled and a public medical history. Maradona was admitted to hospital in January 2019 with internal bleeding in the stomach and also fell ill at the 2018 World Cup in Russia following a game between Argentina and Nigeria. The legend, who celebrated his 60th birthday on October 30th, a week after the Brazil legend celebrated his 80th, is regarded as one of the greatest football players ever. He rose to prominence at Argentinos Juniors before a spell at rival Boca Juniors, which earned him superstardom and a move to Barcelona in 1982. Before that, he had guided his country to being crowned World Youth Champions, winning the Youth World Cup in Japan. He joined Napoli 2 years later and helped the club win their first ever Serie A title in 1987 and again in 1999. It was during his spell with Napoli that Maradona led Argentina to World Cup glory in 1986. He scored one of the great goals of all times against England in the quarterfinals, along with the infamous hand of God goal. His 5 goals and 5 assists at the Mexico 86 earned the tournament's Best Player award. And while he did not find a target in the final, he created the winning goal for George Burruchaga. Argentina came up short in the defense of their crown at the 1990 World Cup, including losing to Cameroon in the first match of Italia 90. Nonetheless, they made it through to the final, losing to Germany, who scored a 58-minute penalty. At the 1994 World Cup, Maradona was sent home in disgrace after failing a drug test after Argentina's 2-2 draw with Nigeria. During the second half of his career, Maradona struggled with cocaine addiction and was banned for 15 months after testing positive for the drug in 1991. He retired from professional football in 1997 on his 37th birthday during his second stint at Argentine giants Boca Juniors. In his native Argentina, he was revered and deemed beyond criticism. Reporting for QTV News, I am Alu Sise.
The Gambia Young Scorpions beat Sierra Leone 2-1 on Tuesday in the ongoing Waffle Zone A Under-20 tournament in Thiès. This victory means they joined Senegal as runner-up in Group A to reach semi-finals. Momodo Gajaga has more.
The Young Scorpions bounced back from a humiliating defeat to Senegal with a spirited performance against Sierra Leone. 2 second-half goals by Adama Kante and Mamadou Bojang gave the Gambia grip on the game, before Sierra Leone pulled one back. Knowing that only a win would guarantee a semi-final spot, coach Mataran Boj changed his tactics to more of an attacking formation to achieve victory.
Thank you for recognizing the work of another colleague, because it's correct that after losing the first game, we did not sleep. I did not go to bed that night. I looked at the video, Senegal-Sierra Leone, analyzed every second, every minute, to try to find the weaknesses in this team.
Sierra Leone needed to avoid defeat against Gambia to be through, but they failed to contain the Young Scorpions even when they had some moments to score. Assistant coach of the junior Lone Stars, Hassan Cisse, says they were punished on their mistakes.
First, I want to congratulate the Gambia team, and I want to say kudos to the Gambian team. They did well. I think we failed to do our assignments. But that is football. Sometimes you win, sometimes you draw, sometimes you lose. So today we failed to complete our assignment, so we lose.
With Group B having only 3 teams, each team played twice. Now both group winners, Senegal and second place Gambia, await the tie between the two Guineas to know their semi-final opponents. This broadcast is proudly brought to you by Inco. Mamadou Gajaga, QTV News, Thiès, Senegal.
2 similarly named countries have sealed their places in the semi-finals of the WAFU Under-20 tournament in Thiès, Senegal. Guinea-Bissau and Guinea emerged from Group B. Momodo Gajaga again.
Despite having 15 of their squad test positive for coronavirus 2 days ago, Mali's team took to the field against Guinea in Monday's early kickoff after players tested negative, a side who appeared to be strong opponents. In a competitive encounter, the young Sili national scored 3 times in the second half. Mali registered a solitary goal, which was a mere consolation. Mali's failure to contest their fixture saw the match and 3 points awarded to their would-be opponents Guinea-Bissau. Still in Group B, Guinea-Bissau held on to a slender 1-0 lead against Mauritania to book a semi-final spot. However, the young Murabitunes fought back and, as in their game against Guinea, did so with beautiful attacking football, but missed the penalty that would have leveled the scores. Now the winner of Group B will be decided when the two Guineas face each other on Wednesday. Mali and Mauritania are out of the competition and will play each other in a game that have no bearing in the outcome of the group. This broadcast is proudly brought to you by Inco. Mamadou Gajaga, QTV News, Thiès, Senegal.
Before we end this bulletin, let's take a quick look at our main stories. President Barrow on Wednesday embarked on a tour of Banjul City to assess the rehabilitation projects. The National Environment Management Council held its maiden stakeholders dialogue since its establishment in 1994. The managing director of the Gambia Ports Authority has said that the GPA is growing despite the numerous challenges it faces. Former Army Lieutenant Omar Dabo told the TRRC that a former NIA officer, Fode Barry, was responsible for his torture when he was arrested and accused of being involved in a coup plot in 2000. In international news, in the dying days of his presidency, outgoing U.S. President Trump has issued an order targeting citizens of several African countries who may wish to visit America. In sports news, the Gambia Young Scorpions beat Sierra Leone 2-1 on Tuesday in the ongoing Waffle Zone A Under-20 tournament in Senegal. Argentine football legend and World Cup winner Diego Maradona, regarded by many as the greatest player of all time, has died at the age of 60. That's all we have for you in this bulletin of the news. Join us at 10 for another bulletin. Thank you for watching.